Shalom, everyone. Shana Tova. I'd like to take a couple of moments just to speak with you a little bit about the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, these 10 days of repentance. Share some thoughts for these days of awe. And in true rabbinic fashion, I'd like to start with a story. This is a story from our tradition. I've gotten it from a book by Martin Buber. And as you know, he was very, very involved in many ways with some of our tradition, the Hasidic tradition. So he writes about this story attributed to a Rabbi Hanach. There was a man once who was not very smart. When he got up in the morning, it was hard for him to find his clothes, that at night he almost hesitated to go to bed for thinking of the trouble he would have upon waking. One evening, he finally made a great effort, took a paper and pencil, and as he undressed, noted exactly where he put everything he had on. And the next morning, very well pleased with himself, he took the slip of paper in his hand and read cap, and there it was, and he set it upon his head, and pants, and there they were, and he got into them, and so it went until he was fully dressed. That's all very well, but now where am I myself? He said in great consternation. Where in the world am I? He looked and looked, but it was a vain search. He could not find himself, and that is how it is with us, said the rabbi. It's a great little story because it introduces us to the themes in many ways that we'll be dealing with during the high holiday period. If we go through the liturgy, the tradition, one of the great things that these 10 days are about is the question, Ayecha, where are you? Where am I? Where am I at this stage of our life? And this has particular resonance, I think, I know, for those of us at Jewish Sacred Aging. So I wanted to take a look a little bit about some of the themes that we may be experiencing in our third and fourth stages of life. And of course, we always go back to the tradition, and as we did last year, and I've written about, and many of my colleagues do as well, taking a look at some of the Hebrew aspects of this. So this is 5,785 that is about to dawn. And 85 is made up of the 8 and the 5. And the 8 is, the 80 stands for the Hebrew letter Peh, which immediately should trigger perhaps the idea of the phrase in our tradition, panim el panim, face to face, which begins with the Peh. This is really very meaningful, is it not, post-pandemic? For as we get older, as we've talked about many times in classes and conversations here on Jewish Sacred Aging, we seek community. We understand that it is not good for us to be alone. And the voluminous amounts of articles and books now, from the Surgeon General to a recently held conference here in Philadelphia on Alzheimer's, indicated that one of the things that we most need as we get older is that sense of community, that sense of social interaction. And that the more we have that social action, that being face to face, it enhances our quality of life. And even, according to some studies, even extends our lifespan. The Hey for 5, so it's 80 and 5, the Pei and the Hey is symbolic, as many of you know, in our tradition, shorthand for the concept of the sacred or God. You may remember in the book of Genesis, Avram and Sarai. In the course of the telling of the book of Genesis stories, the Hey is added to each one of those names. So Avram becomes Avraham, and Sarai becomes Sarah. Their name is changed by the addition of what our commentaries and our tradition sees as the addition of God or the sacred in their life. So the high holidays are here. It is a time, literally, we're being called by the prayers, by the music, to come panim el panim, face to face with who we really are, or perhaps even more important, who we wish to be. And in doing so, we come face to face, we hope, with what is sacred and divine in our own life. I think these letters speak to us as we age in a very, very wonderful way in many ways. For this is a time in our life's journey that we often see our priorities of life evolve. Pirkei Avot reminds us that 80 is a time of gevurah, of might. It may not be a time of physical might, but let me suggest that it is a time potentially of spiritual might. It is a time for many of us that we begin to realize that our own time is limited. And so we begin to look at where we have come from and where we wish to be. This leads us again to the value and importance of one of the major, if not the major theme of the High Holidays, and that is that value of choice. We're going to read about it in the High Holiday liturgy and in Torah portions, especially on Parashat Nitzavim, on Yom Kippur, and that concept of sacredness, the Hay, in the Parashat Kedoshim. But choices involve, especially at our age, some tensions. And let me suggest that two may impact us and probably will impact us in this coming year. Tensions that we can contemplate while we either sit in shul or, for some of you, maybe sitting at home watching something on the electronic or Zoom or live stream at a particular synagogue. But we're there. And one of the tensions, one of the challenges of the tensions is this tension between what I'll call acceptance and surrender. So many of us are undergoing changes in our life. Our bodies are changing. Perhaps our relationships are changing. Sometimes of our choice, sometimes not of our choice. It may be a challenge as to what to do now that we don't have to do full-time work, or the choice to continue to work, of what to do with dealing with adult children, or how to handle relationships or new relationships with grandchildren, or handling a diagnosis that perhaps we did not expect. Do we surrender to these new realities, or do we accept these new realities and move on in our life? This tension of acceptance and surrender, think about it. How people manage this tension helps determine how we and often our families see and live our next life chapters. I would imagine that many of us listening to this or watching this right now have knowledge of people who have dealt with, in many ways, the cards that life has chosen to deal with us, to give us. You know, the phrase we hear all the time, life has handed us cards, how we deal with them. How are we going to deal with them? Some people, and you perhaps know, some people will be overwhelmed by these random acts and surrender to them, not necessarily giving up, but losing a sense of their own worth, faith, or the desire to live. Other people who are dealing with equally challenging new realities say, instead of just surrendering to this, I accept this is a new reality that I have to deal with, a new relationship, a loss of relationship, health issues, challenges from outside. I accept this is the way life is now, but I'm going to continue to live my life, and I'm going to continue to try to be as authentic in my own living as possible. Acceptance can mean progress. One can accept a new reality and remain active, positive, and life-affirming. This tension of acceptance versus surrender becomes even more real as we seek to navigate our third and fourth stages of life. Second tension, and this is one that has come up tons of times in conversation and workshops and classes in our Jewish sacred aging work, is this tension of holding on and letting go. It's a fascinating thing, and also really is impacted by our changes in our life, our own growth, our own aging. And I think the holidays speak to this tension in powerful ways. After all, the vidui, or the confessional part of our prayers for repentance and forgiveness, channel the idea that this season asks us to contemplate what are the things, the people, the relationships, the values, the ideals that we wish to hold on to. Those are the ones that give us definition, give our life texture, give our life's meaning. And what are them? What are the ones that, in order to live that authentic life, at this stage in our life, we just need to let go of? We just need to say enough. It may be an estrangement. It may be a relationship. It may be, who knows? It may be the idea that I've carried this regret for so long that I can't deal with it anymore. In order for me to live truthfully and find joy, I need to let this go because I cannot change what was. This is the season that reminds us that we cannot relive the past. Regret without understanding can become self-destructive. The shofar sounds, as you know, call us to wake up, to awake. And in doing so, it calls us to let go of that which imprisons us, binds us, restricts us from living our true, authentic self. Part of all of this tension of holding on and letting go is also examined with the context of time. Because as we get older, as Genesis 3 reminds us, the reality of our own mortality becomes more real. And for many, the understanding is, I do not know how much time I have left. I need to let go of all that stuff that keeps me from joy, that keeps me from living my true life. These tensions can be challenging, especially at our stage of life, but the holidays also remind us that we continue to move forward. Again, remember, as we've talked about before, the Torah begins with that bet. It's closed at the top, the bottom, and the past. It's open to the future because that's where we all are going. And so the choice then, as we'll read in Nitzavim and Deuteronomy 30:19, the choice again is up to us, and we're called to sanctified life. So the message for us, again, rests with this idea, this value of choice. The tradition is clear that we cannot rely on or pray that a God is going to make these choices for us. No, our choices will determine who we are. So one scholar wrote on this, and let me quote from that. We do not choose to be born. We do not choose our parents. We do not choose our historical epoch, the country of our birth, or the immediate circumstances of our upbringing. We do not, most of us, choose to die, nor do we choose the time or condition of our death. But within all this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how we shall live, courageously or in cowardice, honorably or dishonorably, with purpose or in drift. We decide what is important and what is trivial in life. We decide that which makes us significant is either what we do or what we refuse to do. But no matter how indifferent the universe may be to our choices and decisions, these choices and decisions are ours to make. We decide. We choose. And as we decide and choose, so are our lives formed. In this end, forming our own destiny is what ambition is all about. So on these high holidays, on this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, let us understand these tensions. Let us hold on to that sense of might in our spiritual growth, that sense of the sacred in our life, the tensions of surrender versus acceptance, of holding on and letting go, understanding that we are going to understand that we have the choice to make our life what we wish it to be. A final blessing. This little blessing comes from Alden Soloboy's new book on the holidays and meditations. And it's a prayer for all of us. May it be your will, God of our fathers and mothers, that the year ahead brings a pervasive and complete peace on all the inhabitants of the earth, beyond all the dreams of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful holidays. Be safe. Be kind to one another. We wish you health, shalom, and a Shana Tova. Shalom.